Today we're coming to take a look at this timer in here. As you can tell, I'm going to tell you right now, it's roughly about 10 o'clock in the morning, and you can see that the timer's off. This timer is, we replaced it back in on that date that you see there, April of 21, and the timer has malfunctioned. It's not turning off, and it's not keeping the proper time, even though you can hear the timer mechanism in the back working. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this apart and we're going to replace it out for a new timer. All right, with our panel there removed, let's go ahead and we're going to shut down the power. We just took off the electrical cover plate there, and now it's very simple. You have, if you look very closely, if you read it in here, you may not see it. Each one of these lugs right here, they all have, they're individually numbered, number 1 and number 3. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So 1 and 3, those are your lines coming in from the circuit breaker, and 2 and 4, that's your load. Load meaning your pool pump. So this is coming from the circuit breaker, your 1 and 3, and your 2 and 4 is going to your pool pump. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to disconnect those wires off of the terminals, and then we're going to start installing our new timer system here. All right, got all my terminals loose, took off my ground cable here. I'm gonna leave that, just put that to the side and pull out my leads. If you want, one way that you can do this so that you don't mess up the wiring locations of everything, you can have your timer here ready to go. Pull those out of the box, okay, and you can line it up. One other way you could do it is also open up these terminals here, back off the screw, and then you can pull the wires out one by one, and then install those onto your timer as you pull the lead off. So pull the lead off of your old timer and then install it onto your new timer as you go. And also too, you can leave it like that because the timer has, the wires, sorry about that, the wires are kind of will stay in the same place. So up here in the top, there's this compression lever. You push up on the compression lever, and then you pull your timer out. It's hard for me to do it with one hand, but and this pulls right out. One thing I wanted to take notice of is that when you're going and putting your timer back into the slot, notice these different sections here in this longer compression rail that's right here. Okay, so that's where the timer sits in on. So when you go to put your timer in, okay, you see that square notch right there? That's where it's gonna sit, right above that railing right there. So you grab your timer and you're gonna slide this slotted area. Let me point it out for you. This slotted area, you're gonna slide it through those two triangles right there. So you're gonna slide it at an angle, just like that. And then that top of that square is gonna sit right above these little railings right here. So once you got it there, then you just push back and that locks it in place. And And that's the way you're supposed to see it. Now, go ahead and we'll back off our screws of our terminals. And if you have more wires connected, because you may have other, like let's say a salt system connected to it, or some other type of devices pulling power from this source, then obviously wire it as you saw it before, so that everything works the same. Make sure you back off your terminals so that you can fit it, because what you're doing is you're fitting it behind that terminal plug. There's like a little square plate inside of there, and the wire has to sit behind that square plate. When you do it yourself, you'll know what I'm talking about. And something that I do, I like to put my lines on the left side of the screw, you know, and I put my loads on the right side of the screw. That's just something that I do. It's no right or wrong. You can plug them in however you want, just as long as you get if they're in there. And then this is the most important part. It's with any electrical connection, the connection has to be a tight connection. It can't be a loose connection. So you don't want to over torque it, but you do want to make sure that your lead is up. Make sure that your terminal screw is tight and secure to there, because with electricity, you don't want to have any loose connections, because that's where arcing can happen. And basically arcing is there's a loose connection, and there's electricity present at that connection, and then the electricity is just bouncing between the separation, causing what's called arcing. Okay, or think of it like little lightning strikes between the terminal itself. All right, so we have everything back in place. Go ahead, and on the new one, you're gonna find that it has the screw for your electrical cover plate. You can reuse the old one if it fit. It does come with a new plate here. The way this works is that you have this oval right above the A, and you have that hole, that's where your screw goes. So the oval fits right over this. There's this little plastic horizontal part there that goes in there, and you have to press it down and then twist it, you know, so you fit it into the hole there, and then you're gonna twist it underneath there, and it'll be underneath. So I'll show you in a second. All right, so there you go, that's what I mean. And once you push it in there, slide it in there, you will have to like bend this plastic a little bit for it to fit over, you know, fold over this and push it backwards behind this plate. And once you got it there, and you put your screw into that slot, and that holds everything in place. And then there's also this little opening here for this little other notched area. So that secures this plate to the electrical, covering that up. Now we'll go ahead and we'll turn back on our breaker. Okay. Okay, so now one thing we have left to do is we gotta add our ground cable back. We'll do that, and we're gonna show you now how to properly set the time for your timer. So currently right now it's 10 a.m. So the first thing you want to do is take notice of this silver arrow plate here in the center, and it says there labeled time. Okay, so do not unscrew that. This is already preset from the manufacturer. So the way that you adjust it is you can't just turn the dial. You have to actually pull the dial forward and then it's rotatable. Okay, back or forth. So right now it's 10 a.m. So we're gonna pull it forward to me, to yourself, and then rotate it to the 10 a.m. and then you let it release, and then it goes back in place. Just so that you know, in between the main hours, okay? So we're gonna back this off, and we're gonna look at this 4 a.m. to the 5 a.m. hour here. So between the 4 a.m. is right there above my nail, okay? That line. Every line after that is 15-minute increments. So that's 4:15, 4:30, 4:45, and then it's 5 a.m. Then 5:15, 5:30, 5:45, 6 a.m., so on and so forth. So depending on what time you're at, you try to adjust it there as best as possible. Keep in mind this is a mechanical timer, plus or minus, let's say, you know, anywhere between up to like 10 minutes is where you're gonna have a variance with, because it all depends. Like if it's, let's say it's 10:17, well, you know, there's no 10:17 here, so your best bet would be, if it was 10:17, you put it somewhere as best as possible, and plus or minus 10 minutes of your on and off timing. And that's the way you set your actual time itself. Okay, now to set your schedule, you have 2 screws, 2 pins. You have an on pin, you have an off pin. So to maneuver those, you unscrew the screw that's on there. You may need a pair of little pliers to just back off the screw a little bit, okay? And let's say you want your timer to turn on at 9 a.m. Sorry about that. So you can't, you're sometimes you're able to slide it, but once you get around the area of where this arrow is, there's something behind it that's the trigger point for turning on and off the timer. Okay, so let's say if I want my 9 a.m., I'm gonna slide it off from where it was at, slide it on, and then torque down my screw onto the 9 a.m. part. And again, try to be as accurate as you can with the point of the triangle. Focus right onto the 9 a.m. You want to get this relatively tight onto the dial. And then say if you wanted to go at 5 p.m., you're gonna do the same thing. And I'm gonna show you how to see this one. We can slide it, because where the 5 p.m. is, which is right here, there's the mechanism is not there. So we can slide it down the dial on the railing of the dial. So once we have that loose, just slide it down to the 5 p.m. and you can torque it down. And that's the way you set it. So depending on what you want, if you want 10 to 6, you know, 8 to 4, typically most pools should get about a good 8-hour circulation time, but that's what you would get. So here we got a set schedule from 9 to 5. So it's going to work in between these hours, and when it reaches the 5 p.m. mark, it's going to shut off, and it's going to be off this whole entire time throughout the evening and the early morning hours up until 9 a.m. again in the morning. Then this dial will compress against the trigger point pin and flipping on the breaker, the timer switch. Okay, so I've installed my ground cable back here again. It's actually 10:45 in the morning. I'm going to adjust that to that little line right there, compress it back. You see on both sides on there. So now we got to go ahead and put our cover plate back on. Now your cover plate, take notice of, let me leave that little screw in it for if something else falls. You have 2 slotted areas right here, one here and one here, and the same thing on the bottom. You want to go ahead and you want to slide that into there, let that fall into place, push that back into place, and then you go ahead and put your screws. Oh God, I gotta find that now. Oh my God, thank goodness. Could have been a disaster trying to find that. and then go ahead and just put your screws back on. All right, so there you go. So now with that set and everything ready to go, I like to date the times that I put my timers, turn it on, and then you're set to go. Thank you so much for watching this quick video on how to determine, number one, the issue with this one. Let me turn this off. The issue with this timer was that the mechanism in the back was working intermittently. The mechanism in the back of the dial was not triggering the off pin, which was causing this pump to run all night, 24 hours a day, and it wasn't shutting it off. It wasn't keeping the proper time, and the mechanism in the back wasn't hitting up against the actual trigger points right here of the off pin. So just so you can show you the way that it works is here on your pins. Let's say on your on pin, you have that trigger point, which is that square notch on the bottom, right down there. That's the on one. And if you look at the off pin, the trigger point is in the back side of the triangle, we're going to call it. So you see the trigger point's in the front of the on pin, and the trigger point's in the back. One thing you want to notice before you change your timer is your pin itself good? Because sometimes the pin can become distorted and bent, opened up, like this part here in the front, the triangle I'll call it, can be opened up, separated, which changes the angle of the trigger point. If yours looks like this and you're having this issue, you're probably gonna have to replace your timer. If your pins are open, bent, they don't look like how these look, then try replacing your pins first. You could pick them up at any hardware supply store like a Home Depot, and replace your pins. Probably a couple bucks, maybe about $5-6 to replace your pins, rather than replacing the timer. They cost you a couple $100 with installation. So that's the way the timer pins work. If your timer pins are good, and save them, put it in here in case you were to lose one, you have an extra set. Thank you so much for watching this video. Appreciate your time, and look forward to putting out some more content pretty soon.